We are live. This is the market update. I am your host, Bill Noble. Are you interested in whether altcoins or Bitcoin are going to do better starting, say, June and July? Why is it that fear greed shows that we're at 73% greed with Ethereum down 25% for the year and Solana down 7%? Bet you didn't know that. Also, in legacy, the latest apocalypse disaster has been canceled. Japanese government bond market has been falling apart, causing everybody to freak out about government bond markets worldwide. Wouldn't you know, that problem got solved, at least for now, in 24 hours. None of these legacy problems last very long. And I don't think people realize, and I'm just going to keep saying it and saying it and saying it, that the only way to vent the pressure in legacy is through crypto. If you want to learn more about that, plus you want to see the Ethereum Fib Circle breakout, can't miss that. Stick around. Let's welcome who is here. We have Zepedas from Hungary. DH, what's up? We have Ben from Australia. We have SGSG, the original. Joshua from Seoul, Korea, welcome. Warmon is here. Really hope this BTC conference is a catalyst. I'd settle for it not being the conference curse, unless Vance reveals that he's Satoshi Nakamoto or someone in the U.S. even U.S. government is. We were talking about that before the stream. We have Mr. Lopez here from Portugal. Arendam, what's up? What's up? All right, more fireside chat format, I think, today. 0 ships were inbound from China a few weeks ago. Trump closed the loophole that Chinese companies were using to flood America with $100 billion worth of whatever. You know what? The Chinese are in trouble. And everyone's running around with this M2 graph, like, buckle up, Bitcoin's going much higher because money supply is exploding. Yeah, well, some of that money supply that you're seeing, that's from China. It's global money supply, excuse me. So the Chinese have to print. I don't know what the Japanese are going to do. Their insurance companies are experiencing catastrophic losses. I think that brings in the Fed, which is why crypto is perky this morning after they got this Japanese government bond market at least off the front page. Now, the Orange Man, again, everyone giving him a hard time. Trump Media Group, supposedly, according to Financial Times, going to borrow $3 billion to buy crypto, which is immediately refuted right here. The U.S. government is the people that need to buy crypto, and I personally think the Orange Man has gotten himself in enough sort of spotlight over the meme coin, right? They got to work on that, and they are. They're using that as an access point for crypto. Now, this is a little edgy and controversial. So the big, beautiful bill, not so beautiful if you're poor. $0 to $17,000, you're essentially going to wind up $940 worse off, because I think they're trying to take healthcare away from these people. $17,000 to $50,000, you're going to also wind up slightly worse off. Then, you're moving into, like, this is where your hourly wage workers are, probably here and here. They're going to get $815. And then as you move up the curve, there's a lot more tax savings in here, a lot more income increases in here, mainly because I guess the income is higher. They're going to have a problem roasting poor people. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, If you're making $50,000 or $17,000 a year in America, you're toast. Even if you're living in Mississippi, you're probably sleeping in your car. So they're pulling healthcare away from these people, and they're going to increase $2 trillion in debt to get more money into the hands of these other people and defense contractors and the like. It's kind of same old, which again is, I think it's ridiculously bullish crypto. It is. I know it is. Okay, I love this. This was back in the day. So if you want to understand where Bitcoin is going, just look at what gold did in the 70s, which is interesting, right? Gold in the 70s was hanging around $200. And then all of a sudden, it just went up only. Absolutely up only. Right? From 200 to 600. Now, back then, it was like gold was king. And then stocks turned around in 1982 and left gold in the dust for 20 years. In this case, it's not gold that's going to get left in the dust. It's possibly stonks. Now, I'll give you another theory. We assume Bitcoin can behave like this. I actually think it's more along the altcoins, but most people think I'm crazy. You have to also ask yourself how crypto could behave if actually equities do okay. If equities actually okay, make a new high, that kind of stuff. Like what happens to crypto in that case? If you have a decoupling in terms of crypto being able to move like this, while equities can only move in an orderly fashion, right? So is it because of inflation? I don't know, but you can have late stage, big rallies in commodities. Attorney files a lawsuit to unmask Satoshi. I think the identity of Satoshi is a little bit like Bigfoot, UFOs, and things like that. Time travel. You can ask, but you'll never find out. And I really hope Satoshi is not Uncle Sugar, although it's a very well-kept secret, which does sound like an intelligence service to me. Now, on the bright side, global bond markets rally as Japan says, don't worry, we won't let our bond market completely blow up. Thank God. Right? Understanding the dynamics of what's going on there will be very important. But then again, I don't know that these headlines can hold Bitcoin down for long. They can't. Congratulations to the U.S. men's hockey team. They won some sort of like the World Championships, maybe, or some tournament against European countries for the first time in 92 years. 92 years. That is a long time. Congratulations to Team USA on Memorial Day. Elon Musk officially removes 12 million people over 120 years old from the U.S. Social Security database. This is a very interesting tweet, right? It's kind of random that they're all of a sudden trying to come back to Elon because, man, he was hot and then he was not. And I think they're going to, this feels like they want to try to bring Doge back to try to get the big, beautiful bill through, which I don't know, really isn't that beautiful in terms of optics, right? No tax and tips on overtime, but you're literally destroying Medicare in favor of corporate tax cuts. I mean, you may want to do all these things, but wow. I don't know how that's going to fly, and it's definitely bullish crypto. I mean, they want to blow the deficits out to $3 trillion a year. It's like $1 trillion now. So, again, what the Fed does is irrelevant. Congress can spend so much money. They have to print so much money. I mean, it's just, I don't know. It's just up only for crypto in so many ways. This includes DeFi, Layer 1, internet rails, and especially AI. Where you see this Google headline that I have. $300,000 Bitcoin lottery grows every bigger as traders chase upside. Time to step back, says my guy Omar, who is a very good technical analyst working over at CoinDesk. Let me ask a simple question. What happens if everyone is betting big on Bitcoin and the actual trade is in Ethereum, Solana, and XRP? Well, you probably heard that before, and you're probably going to hear it again. I think everyone is missing a very, very important trade. And even though the market doesn't really move, they can't push crypto down. They can't push altcoins. They can't push it down, right? In other words, it corrects, but there's no follow through on the downside, right? Quantum computing could break Bitcoin like encryption far easier than initially thought, says Google. Okay. Well, here's the great news, folks. Whatever it is that they decide to do with quantum computing, somebody in crypto will innovate something else that's quantum proof, and the system can innovate. Now, does that support the $1 million narrative for Bitcoin? No, it doesn't. What it does speak to is the need to be nimble. Now, of course, if they've got a quantum computer that can break the Bitcoin encryption, they've also got Skynet that will introduce itself as your overlord at the same time. I cannot underscore the need to look at decentralized AI. I mean, Google reportedly closes a multi-year deal for Pixel 10 and beyond. The scramble to get chips for this build out. I'm also hearing another big tech company is forcing managers to declare up to 15 to 20% of the employees in their unit as underperformers so they can be moved out. Like that's normally like 10 to 13. Now it's 15 to 20. This build out is relentless and they just absolutely don't care. They just don't care. They're doing it. Safety off. Hardware, software, ChatGPT 5. Yeah, that's going to come out. What is that going to be able to do? Okay. Wall Street has discovered the dollar should go down. Wonderful. And of course, Doomberg is only too happy to pick up on it. So dollar falls to lowest level since 2023. Wall Street is down on the dollar. Ken Rogoff on how crypto is cutting into the dollar's hegemony. Love how crypto is the dollar's problem when we're running $3 trillion deficits and rugging healthcare from poor people. Doesn't make any sense. Doesn't. Okay. Crypto is not taking away from the dollar's hegemony. Crypto is becoming, like I said, a top tier alternative to the dollar because it can't just be gold, right? I mean, recently it was sterling. So I don't understand if we're buying the pound, especially with some of the issues that government has, even though the pound is historically a powerful currency, why we're not buying Solana, why we're not buying XRP, and why we're not buying Ethereum. It's a top tier dollar alternative. Just in, Hyperliquid flips SUI. Now, here's something that people have not thought about. What happens if Hyperliquid is finance? Fetch is AI. Or let's try it this way. Hyperliquid is DeFi. Fetch is AI. Okay. And everybody was ignoring Solana because everybody was hot on SUI. And what happens if this SUI hack brings everybody back to Solana? That say if Solana can handle the next big meme coin wave without an outage, that Solana could become super layer one. Remember Novogratz from Galaxy Digital, who wanted to sell the first uptick in Ethereum to buy Solana. Now, of course, like all these big hedge fund types, they're right, but they're early, right? What happens if the sort of the pause in the Sui party really helps bring people back to Solana? Solana hasn't done anything for a while, and Solana's still down for the year, and everyone's like super bullish. Sailor says on-chain proof of reserves is a bad idea due to security reasons, and that may be true. Is that what they got going on at Bitcoin Vegas? I mean, I wanted people to buy a ticket for that because I thought it would be very exciting, but that's not really a very exciting thing for Mike to say. Then again, Mike says exciting things about crypto each and every day. I find this absolutely fascinating. TradFi is building ETH layer 2s to tokenize trillions in real-world assets. New Ethereum layer 2s from Securitize and Ant Digital, custom built for TradFi, plan to win the race to tokenize everything. This is what I don't understand about the Ethereum bearish case. Yes, there probably are a lot of useless layer 2s. I don't think Optimism is useless. I don't think Arbitrum is useless. And I don't think any of these layers that can run security tokens. Because after what happened with Ohm, right, nobody is going to run real-world assets on a small boutique layer 1 that can just get blown up like that. It's going to get run on ETH. Like you could run securities on ETH and stable coins on Solana. Stablecoin and Multicoin Capital just got done writing a report about it. Why is Solana at 175 again? I mean, how much higher should that be? It almost feels like I'm back in 2019 and I'm on the air, with my old boss going, Ethereum's just not going to stay at 300. Like 175 in Solana feels like 300 in Ethereum 5 years ago. It does. It does. And, of course, if that ever took off, what happens? What happens to the whole market? Right? Everyone assumes the market is dead. I think that is a terrible assumption. AI needs better human data, not bigger models. Okay? It's funny. Like content creation, they'll be paying a lot more for it later on. Seriously. Like AI risks bias, hallucinations, and irrelevance without expert oversight and high-quality training sets. Okay, well, I don't know if that's true, but what I do know is if they run out of human data to feed it, they're going to have to start feeding it whatever they want to feed it, which to me is really scary. I would rather have them open up all the newspapers and all the YouTube videos and feed it the whole thing than have these guys start making it up. Seriously. You could feed it a whole separate moral code. Exodus launches XOPay. Boy, this thing, man, where you're going to have these pop-up wallets where you're going to be able to buy crypto with debit cards. God, man, when normies come figure this out. Okay, now back to macro briefly. Japan's largest insurers suffer staggering losses after the bond market implodes. Now, why does this matter? First of all, Japanese insurance companies are huge. They are beyond huge. The banks and insurance companies are gigantic. You cannot have these kind of catastrophic losses without bringing in the central banks. Heavy. This includes the Fed, especially the Fed, because I don't know how much the Japanese can do in this case, because it's their bond market that's falling apart. I think the Fed has to save Japan. I really do. And I think this whole story about the Japanese bond market being this, oh my God, for crypto, you saw how long that lasted, right? One day. Because if Powell lets that happen, well, you're going to have suffering beyond belief. And I don't know that he wants that. So just a reminder, right? Big banks and insurance companies have problems, Rates come down, crypto moves. Okay. Very interesting that stocks are currently up 1.5% on NASDAQ. Okay. Because, we did a just kidding. We did a just kidding on the tariffs. Okay. And they straightened out the Japanese bond market. Okay. We have a request for Phantom. Okay. Let's do Phantom. Or what used to be Sonic. I'm sorry. What used to be Sonic is what used to be Phantom is now Sonic. Okay. Generally speaking, I'm in favor of really fast DeFi. Let me see if I can get this up. I think we did this yesterday, but we'll do it again today. I don't know if they pulled the history of Phantom, right? And now it's just Sonic. Okay, well, on Luxalgo, this little 4-hour Sonic chart, Sonic came actually close to the discount zone on the last washout. In other words, I think this brings us to a point where I'm just like, you know what? Oh, here we go. Yeah, this is this was the cup and handle from yesterday. Notice how everybody got wrecked on this handle. It's very typical. Handles are awful. Awful. There's this thing. I know I've said this, and people must be like, oh my God, Bill, really? Gann said that when holders have to live through a consolidation phase, he likens that to like a test. He called it spiritual development. Now, obviously, if you're into this, you've been waiting a while, right? You've been waiting a while because, everything was euphoric in January, and then everything just fell apart and stayed falling apart. Now, and then you base out just like you did in like mid 2024, you make these base formations. And then when Bitcoin gets done doing this thing, the whole altcoin universe takes off because of the DeFi RWA. And it has narratives now. We're just waiting for someone to push the button. But you got to get all over fast DeFi. All over fast DeFi. And for tongue-in-cheek, we have Jerry the Turtle at a $20 million market cap. That's the 4-hour chart. So people are really into Jerry the Turtle. Let's take a look at the Twitter. Yes. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. You know what? But like I said, let's open it up. Let's get Jerry the Turtle going. Let's do it. Anything to get people interested. Now, ETH. You know what, folks? We got a breakout on our hands here, and people can't see it. Okay. This is like Fibonacci circle work. Okay. Let me see if I can try to draw it. So I connected using Fib circles. I think I connected the July 2017 bottom to the 2021 high. And wouldn't you know, ETH did this like gliding breakout through these circles. Now, generally speaking, in my mind, frequently when you go through one of these circles, you can start a big move to attack, I don't know, another one of the circles. Like right now, the top of the circle up here by December is at 7,000. And who thinks ETH could go to 6,000 or 7,000? You know what? Nobody. But, ETH has done literally nothing but go down. It's down. Fear greed is 73%, and ETH is still down 25% for the year. And as a public service announcement, ETH went down and tested its 2017 high. And frankly, if you look at this whole thing, you just look at ETH. If you take out the 2021 overshoot on the upside, and you take out the 2022 overshoot on the downside, ETH has been in a box for 5 years. 5 years of spiritual development. You got any idea what happens with ETH at 6,000 or 7,000? Is that so ridiculous? With Bitcoin at 110 and probably headed for, I don't know. There's all kinds of numbers, 120, 140. Everyone's got 250 on the legacy side with no idea how it gets there. Do you have any idea what happens to altcoins in general with an ETH breakout? Like the ski mask dog and the arrow guys are like, yeah, let's go. This is the one chart market update, people. It is. It's the one chart market update. Now, MicroStrategy. Oh my God. Look what they did to this thing yesterday. Look at this gap, right? They tried to make an island top. Now, an island top is like a gap here and a gap here. And according to the theory, like particularly from commodities, everyone who bought up here gets left on an island. They get hosed. Now, what you don't realize is island tops never work in equities. Never. So MicroStrategy at a minimum is going to go right back up and fill this gap. And this is an equilibrium zone for MicroStrategy. Just as a reminder, MicroStrategy is now 47% away from its premium zone. I know I say this on the regular, but look out above on MicroStrategy. Look out above. Dying to look at AI. Just dying. Here's Fetch, right? Artificial super intelligence token. Every time I read a story about what's going on in Web 2 for AI, it literally makes my skin crawl. Literally. It creeps me out, right? And if we don't invest in this, it's kind of strange to say it. If they don't make this work, and you know how they make it work? When token prices go up, right? Token prices going up spurs innovation. And when I look at this gigantic rounding bottom in Fetch, I'm like, how is this not going up? When you have all these creeps running artificial intelligence all by themselves with no oversight, with no safety, nothing. Fetch is up today, Tau's up 2%, and it was up yesterday. But then they decided to smack the market. I don't know, because everybody was on holiday. And in a way, whatever they did like yesterday to first they started it higher and then they dropped it. That almost felt like the holiday trick because it made you think it was no good. And then they're going to come out gangbusters after this thing because I continue to believe that Bitcoin Vegas will somehow ignite altcoins. Like everyone will go, okay, well, they had the conference and, Bitcoin's great and the dollar's going lower, but what else can we buy? I don't think anyone's asking that question, to be honest. Right? To be honest, meme coins. Take your pick. What do we got? I don't know. We got ETH meme coins moving. Pepe is still below its equilibrium. Can you believe that? Like, that's how beat up some of these large cap meme coins are. And WIF, you can't even tell anything's happening, really. It's on a daily chart. I mean, you still have bag holders really unloading. See, it goes up. Bag holders are trying to get out of this on any rally. But what you're not realizing is what goes down a certain way goes back up the same way. Equilibrium is at $2.50. It's currently at $1.14. When you look at Ski Mask Dog, I know a lot of people are into this, and I haven't always been entirely enthusiastic. But, overnight, I was saying to myself, you know what? I hope this goes to the moon. I hope it goes to the moon. I also hope that even though I originally drew this as a head and shoulders top, it could also be cup and handle. And I know what happens in this market when everything goes kind of cup and handle. That's not perfect. Maybe it's more like just a giant rounding bottom. If so, ski would be a buy. Maybe I'm nuts. It's like, hey, Bill, I don't know. You got something funny going on there? You all of a sudden want to do meme coins? Yeah, let's do it. Right? Let's have a highly speculative summer, because all this legacy doom and gloom stuff, I think this last tariff thing, I think that's the end. Like, they're not going to freak the market out anymore. Like, he's going to say, oh, we're going to tariff this person, tariff that person. The market's just going to blow it off because everybody got caught again. He threatened Apple and the European Union. Everyone freaked out and sold. And now they've retracted the whole thing. And let's buy Ski Mask. Let's do it. Right? Arrow. This is another thing I really want to see moving. And I also think I'm having a mouse problem here. I also think you can get, it's like, you got to ask yourself, what in the Solana and ETH universe is down? That's it. Let's just buy what's down. Look at this. Wow. The size of this thing. Look at this just looks like it wants to absolutely break out and go. And the Eagle King, rightly so. This feels like the Eagle King sent me something the other day that some guy was saying he was wondering if this is like the next Peanut. This is Moonpig 4 hour. I can't really make much out of what's going on over here. But it has hit the 62% retracement of that last big run up twice. That's 0.5. This is Moonpig. And you're probably like, am I in the right show? Is this the right show? Like, yeah, man, it's the right show. It is. Everyone's talking about Bitcoin, and that's fine. But again, here's what's funny. When Bitcoin was at 77, I'm screaming, the dollar, the dollar, the dollar, the dollar, the dollar. Right? Now Wall Street goes, the dollar, the dollar, the dollar. And I'm like, yeah, let's go to Moonpig. Let's still do Bitcoin. But, let's move over. The turtle. God. Free PR for the turtle. Okay. Heading over to DeMark. Notice what happens if Bitcoin takes out 110. There's kind of nobody home up here. I don't think so. Right? You could have 3 more weeks up and head to 119. No problem. You got a 13 top here. Absolutely no reaction. in a way, it reminds you of the 13 top from back here in 2024. It's like it's not reacting to it, but we'll see. And even if it does react to it, I think it results in a rotation into altcoins. And just a reminder, as we glide into the end of the month here, absolutely no sign of this stopping on Bitcoin monthly. None, right? This is continuation, and you're talking about 7 more months, right? You have your setup phase, and then these red numbers are the continuation phase, or the countdown, phase. 7 more up months. Let's go to ETH monthly. Haven't looked at it, but we'll look at it now. Oh my God. Does anybody remember me talking about this 13 bottom? Somebody, I think, did. It's unbelievable. And it's up 80%, and people still don't like it. Although I am hearing, the Eagle King said that, ETH price prediction on YouTube is a top ranked video people are searching for. Because I guess a lot of people are trapped. This 13 top prior to FTX, this is when I was kind of like prayer of the sheepdog, get to the chopper, get out. There was something wrong. That was 3 massive down months. This, 3 massive up months. Right? It's the same signal going in the other direction, and there's nobody home until 3,900. Nobody. Right? Now, we used to talk about this. We stopped talking about it, and we're going to start talking about it again. Now, this is Ethereum versus Bitcoin. And this is for anybody who's going to tell me that altcoins can't start massively outperforming. You have a 13 bottom and a 9 bottom in Ethereum versus Bitcoin. You have Ethereum versus Bitcoin back where it was in September of 2019. Translated into English, Ethereum has no use. Ethereum back in the day was like, yeah, it had no use case. And then its use case was ICOs. And the whole thing became toxic. So it had no use case. Then they made a use case with ICOs. And now it's completely dead. And it's never going up again in our lifetime. Do you know how many times ETH has been dead? Literally, ETH has been dead multiple times. Now you have the most unbelievable DeMark signal ever. You have ETH up 80% off the low. Can you even tell that by looking at the ETH BTC chart? Can you even tell? You can't. It just looks like a really nice looking engulfing candle. It's very nice. It's not quite an engulfing candle, but obviously it's a big green candle after a huge selling climax. Let's put it that way. It doesn't get any better than that. And we waited a long time for this. Like these pluses, I'm like, oh, it's going to be here any day now. And finally, it just had to go down only for 6 or 8 months before it happened. This is like altcoin super cycle. Who's talking about that? Nobody. Nobody. I am. I mean, you're going to see the big boss. Like, I bet this thing starts turning. You're going to see, I don't talk to him on a regular. You're going to see the big altcoin pickers. They're going to start dumpster diving, and they're going to start looking for stuff. And again, any layer one that's fast, anything that can be used by AI agents, you're going to see the altcoin pickers out there aggressively soon, in my opinion, particularly if ETH and Solana get perky. Because again, as a final note, market went down. There was all this bad news, and it didn't move anything. Like it was all this market stayed strong. Okay, folks, that's the market update for today. We will see you tomorrow.